Hey guys, welcome back, it's Ripe again. In today's video, I got married at age 22 and I have 6 kids with my wife. At one point I found out that none of my kids are biologically mine. My wife had been cheating since the beginning of our relationship. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the story. I honestly have been sitting here for about 15 minutes trying to figure out how and where I can even start with this story. I also feel like no matter what I say, some people are just gonna think that I'm a horrible person for abandoning my wife and my 6 children. So, when I was 22, I married a girl that I met when we were both 19. We finished college and boom, got married and having the first kid on the way. She wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and I agreed that I could try and make that work for her. It caused long hours and just when our life seemed to be getting stable again, she would just get pregnant. I got several promotions at work for being seen as dedicated and ambitious when in reality I was just trying to find a way to provide for them all without my wife needing to work herself. Once we had 6 kids in 12 years, it would have cost a fortune for childcare and babysitters if we both were working. Money was always tight and I believed her when she told me where it was all going to, not realizing at the time how much she was spending on herself. See, what I didn't know is that she would go out and buy herself expensive dresses, jewelry, handbags and then hide them. I was working so much and missing so much of my kids' lives while she was just spending the money to make sure that she had a good lifestyle. Turned out it was really good because those dresses I paid for were getting her a lot of dates with men that she managed to keep a secret as well. It might have stayed that way the entire time if our 9-year-old daughter did not end up getting sick. It turned out that since birth, one of her kidneys had not been functioning great and now the other one was starting to fail as well. She needed a kidney transplant and I was the first person to get myself tested to see if I could donate one of mine to her. The doctor took me aside and told me that my blood type did not match my daughter's and neither did my wife's. This meant that she couldn't have been both of ours and her blood match must be somebody else. I understood what he meant and bought some DNA kits where I would just need to swap my kid's mouth and send in the results compared to mine. It turned out that the results showed none of my kids were actually mine and most of them were only half-siblings to each other. She had been getting around and probably did not even know who all the fathers were, just pretending the kids were mine in order to keep up the illusion of our marriage. I kept it quiet for a little while until the kidney transplant from another donor was successful and I knew she would be okay. Then I confronted my wife that I knew none of the kids were mine and I was pissed about it. I told her that I wanted a divorce and I was leaving her and the kids. I was done working myself to death for a woman that did not give a crap about me. During that time, I tried to rent an apartment to live in, but a credit check showed that my score was in the toilet. I had no idea why, and I had an investigation done that saw a ton of credit cards that got maxed and never paid off in my name. None of which were mine, and based on the spending history, it was clear my wife had done this. Instead of a simple divorce, I was now also suing her for stealing my money and identity to get these credit cards. She was trying to make sure that she got as much as she could from the divorce playing the single mom card. She admitted that she took out the cards in my name, but swore up and down it was to buy things for the children because I refused to give her any money, even though we had a joint bank account that my paychecks went into. Also the fact that none of the purchases were for kid things and all for lavish items for herself. She got told that she had to pay those cards off and she didn't like hearing that. My favorite moment came when the divorce was being finalized and the assets and everything were being divided. She literally got nothing and instead had to pay a humongous fine for stealing from me with these credit cards and was potentially even facing jail time. That was when she let out this gem. Ex-wife, what about alimony and child support? Lawyer, he is not required to do either one of those things, especially because none of the children are his. Ex-wife, not by blood, but he raised and took care of them. That makes him responsible. Lawyer, it doesn't actually. You lied and told him knowing that they were not his kids. He has zero obligation to financially support them or you. She was baffled at the fact that the court was not gonna force me to give her money. And when questioning what she was supposed to do for the money, it was suggested that she get a job. Or maybe try and find the real father of the kids. After the lawsuit and divorce, she twisted the story to make me look like an absolute monster. Our mutual friends didn't even want to hear my side, and it felt like I was not welcome anywhere anymore. The thing I realized was that I was free and could do anything that I wanted to now. And by the way, Ripe Stars, I would not only abandon that cheating wife, but also these terrible friends. Who the hell would be on the wife's side in this story? Anyway, I did not need to stay in the city where everybody hated my guts because of her lies. Hell, I did not even need to stay in the country. I'd spent 12 years working long hours with no time off and getting no personal benefit from it. I decided to say screw it and move somewhere far away. I landed on Vietnam because I wanted to go somewhere beautiful. I did not even know until later how much cheaper it was to live there and how far the money I came with could stretch. Sure, I would need to get a job, but nowhere near the long hours when I did not have all the people to take care of. After a year, I even managed to meet a woman and fall in love with her, this time being old enough to realize what love feels like and that I never really had it with my ex-wife. She helped me heal from feeling betrayed and I learned to trust again. This year we welcomed our son into the world, and despite everything in my past, I never have a doubt in my mind if my son is actually mine. I know some of you will think that I am an a-hole for leaving all of them and moving away. I'm happy and I don't regret anything that I chose to do when it came to my ex-wife. And here, Ripe Stars, let me know what you think about this story. Do you think OP was the a-hole here or not? Either way, let's move on to the next story. It is a malicious compliance story. So I used to work at a bar as the only female security. They had some very bad things happen when a man followed a woman to the bathroom, so they needed a woman that could keep an eye on what happened in there. This bar got in legal trouble all the time, the bathroom thing above, fire marshal closing them on some busy weekend nights for being way over capacity, the liquor board had pulled their license once already for over-serving and serving minors with pretty obvious fake IDs. I was one of the new security hired to help resolve all this. It was so bad we had to be trained by a government ATF person and get a card to prove that we knew how to spot and stop over-servers and spot fake IDs. I think the real reason they hired us was to have scapegoats on the ready for next time they did this. So I worked there for a while doing my best, and the owner's wife was the worst. She always drunk, always had her friends in the bar and bent the rules for them. She thought she was Lady Jesus and we should all be kissing her feet because she was the owner's wife. I mostly stayed out of her way and had no issues, but many coworkers complained about her. One night, some dude gets sick on the way to the bathroom. I cut him off. He ends up getting escorted out by his less drunk friends. I then notice a man sitting at the bar watching this. He had creased slacks, a jacket indoors on a summer night, and no drink in his hand at a busy meat market dance club. I started watching him and noticed the badge under his jacket. Aha! He was here to watch for over-serving. A little later, a woman came to the bathroom, drunk enough to need to hold on to the walls for dear life. I cut her off, she screams at me, and then goes into the bathroom and tries to wash off the giant black Sharpie X from the back of both hands. I warn her that she will be kicked out of the club if she continues. She screams again and staggers out of the bathroom. About 5 minutes later, the owner's wife is in my face, screaming. The woman I had cut off was one of her friends attending a bachelorette party in the VIP section, and I was supposed to somehow magically know that she was VIP. I was also apparently supposed to break the law for her because she was VIP. So she and I start a screaming match where I inform her that her husband had hired me to make sure the law was followed. I also started to inform her about the police officer at the bar, but she screamed in my face to shut your mouth and get out of my bar. She fired me on the spot. I did not bother waiting to see if her husband agreed. It was known that she wore the pants. I complied, I shut my mouth and got out of the bar. I walked past the cop still sitting at the end of the bar near the bathrooms where the screaming match had taken place. I made eye contact with him, gave a slight nod, to which he responded by looking at the boss's wives, rolling his eyes and smiling at me as I left. They got shut down that night for over-serving the bachelorette party. This time, they went out of business because of too many strikes against them. And if you have watched until here, I would very much appreciate it if you could like the video and maybe even post a comment, because that would help me tremendously. Thank you so much, and now let's dive right into the next malicious compliance story. So I was working as the manager at a small independent cafe. I was in charge of the store and answered only to the owner, who happened to live a few blocks from the store. This day we had been open about an hour and a half, but mornings are pretty quiet and most of our AM customers pay by card, so we still only had the £150 float in the till, made up exclusively of coin change and a handful of £5 notes. A guy comes in, orders a coffee and pays with a £10 note. I ring him up, hand him his change, and as the till drawer shuts, he immediately begins to rage. Customer, what the hell is this? I gave you a £50 note. Me, I'm sorry sir, you definitely didn't. You paid £10, this is your change. Customer, don't try to scam me, I know what I gave you. Give me the correct change now. Me, sir, you paid with a £10 note. Customer, open the till drawer and give me the correct change, you dumb Karen. Me, I'm not gonna do that, sir. You have the correct change already. Customer, this is outrageous. Get me the manager now. I wanna watch as they fire you. Now, people try to get extra change like this pretty regularly, either because it's a genuine mistake or because it is a scam. So the standard procedure is to either check the CCTV to prove them wrong, or if it's not clear enough, to close the till and cash it up in front of them. But because I already know that there's not a single £50 note in the till, I could just as easily have opened the till drawer and shown him in this instance. Technically, we have the right to call the police whenever a suspected change scam happens, though in practice, neither I nor any of my assistant managers ever do this. I know that the owner, however, absolutely does, and since this guy has been so rude and demanded to speak to my manager, I guess it's a good time to comply with this request. So I put on my best service smile and walk into the back. And by the way, Ripe Stars, am I the only one here that is just baffled at how apparently this is a common scam? Who the hell would be stupid enough to try this? Anyway, I call the owner and say that there's a situation going down, can she please come in to help me deal with it? When she says she's on her way, I go back out front and make a point of standing as far away from the till as possible. A few minutes later she arrives, clearly a bit pissed off at being called in, and asks the customer what has gone on. He gives his side of the story and I explain that I'm 100% sure he paid just £10 and that since he asked to speak to my manager, would she mind cashing up the till, as I don't think he will trust me to do it. The owner walks over to the till, opens the drawer and reveals the complete lack of any large notes. She pulls the till drawer out to show him and then turns to me and asks me to call the police to report a suspected change scam. The customer, or rather scammer, turns white as a sheet and runs out of the property, leaving his coffee and his change on the bar. And the next one is an Am I the A-hole story. My wife, 31 female, and I, 36 male, have been married for 2 years now. She has a very regimented wellness and mindfulness routine. She wakes up at 5 AM, does yoga in the spare room, goes on a quick run, and comes home to make a smoothie using one of those loud Nutri Ninja blenders, and will get on with her day. She also meditates in there, journals, and does other things that I cannot disrupt her because it's her personal time. She was like this before I met her and was clear that if I wasn't on board with this aspect of her routine, she does not want to pursue anything with me. While I'm not thrilled she has that whole room for herself, I did ask if I could put my PC in there so it's not in the dining room space. It was there before I moved in with her, so I made my peace with it. My sister is coming into town with her partner and young daughter, 6 female, and we both agreed on letting them stay with us to save money. My wife wants them to sleep in the living room because we have multiple comfortable sofas for them to sleep on. While there's enough room, I made my case for buying air mattresses for them and to set them up in my wife's spare room. I also asked her if she would part with her smoothie making at least until they wake up so they are not disturbed in the morning. My wife is vehemently opposed to giving up her room and smoothies. She does not think the room will be comfortable for them, no carpets, and it's got huge windows and massive mirrors on one wall. And also that I'm using this situation as a way to disrupt her routine I apparently hate. I'm not sure where she got that from since I've never asked her to change it. We are in a disagreement over where they should stay and my wife is even threatening to not allow them to stay and have them get a hotel for the visit. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? And yeah, Ripe Stars, let me know in the comments what you think about this. Do you think OP is the a-hole or not? I don't think giving up the room is that hard an ask for my family's comfort, and it's only 3 days. Comment number 1. As someone who is currently in the throes of a deep dark depression, I feel like your wife's routine was possibly born out of absolute necessity, and that it may be the thing that keeps her functional. I would say that she was very clear to you as to how important her routine was, so I do think that you are the a-hole for wanting her to change it. I do also understand that she may be seen as non-accommodating, but it was never a secret. Sometimes things that look selfish are more than what they seem from the outside. Comment number 2, you're the a-hole for saying, I apparently hate. I'm not sure where she got that from, since I've never asked her to change it. Because you act like never asking her to change her routine means that you're not clearly and obviously seething with resentment over it. It's all over the post. Her routine is something that works for her health-wise and requires nothing from you at all except a little space, one room in a whole house. While it would be totally fine to change her routine for the duration of the sisters' visit, it's also fine to have them sleep in the living room. Quotes that show the seething resentment your wife is picking up on, for example, other things that I cannot disrupt her because it's her personal time, and so on. Clearly, you have not made your peace. And now an update to the story. Thank you all for the advice, I'm heading to bed now. I've decided not to push this further with my wife, and my sister and family can use the sofa, or I will pay partly for a hotel for them. I do plan on asking my wife about her routine, and I can update if people would like me to. Final update, my wife was making a smoothie this morning and I approached her over her smoothie making to clear the air. I said that I was wrong to ask to use the room for them and my sister and family should sleep on the sofas, and she was happy to let them stay. I also asked why she has the rigidity of her routine. We didn't get into all of it, but it was a start. I know my wife had a difficult upbringing in her teenage years, but did not link the two that her routine was born out of those circumstances. I will not be encroaching on her room anymore, and someone commented I could add heating to my garage so I could place my gaming PC in there, which is a great plan. Thanks everybody. And now let's move on to the next story. It starts like this. I've just discovered this sub and I have the perfect story for it. It won't be a long one because it happened about 4 years ago and I am fuzzy on the exact details, but it is still a belter. So I used to work in a convenience store and the store manager was a real prick. Misogynistic, offensive as in, haha, cancer is hilarious. Offensive, creepy and a downright bully. Some time after I left, he was fired after he decided to turn a professional interview with a young woman into a conversation about her favorite adult movies. She reported him and he got the sack. Awesome. Anyway, this guy, we will call him Andy, fancied himself as a real leader. I mean, seriously, he wasn't. He set impossible tasks and yelled instructions whilst doing absolutely nothing in the office in the meantime. I had a colleague called Gabby who, to be honest, I didn't get on with. However, I knew that at the time she was having a really tough time at home with her 3-month-old son. One day in the winter, it had snowed. Fairly heavily, Gabby rang in that morning and told Andy she couldn't make it as she was snowed in. Everybody knew that wouldn't have been true and that it was likely she had not slept well with the baby crying and whatnot, but you know what, who cares? She always worked hard and she deserved a break. It was only a 4-hour shift and the store was dead anyway, no customers were gonna walk over snow and ice for the morning paper. Plus, we were actually overstaffed, however Andy had a problem with women. He was always disrespectful and demeaning. Like the rest of us, he knew she would not be snowed in, but he did not let it lie. He wanted to catch her out. Andy abandoned the store, serious gross misconduct, and got in his car. He made the 15-minute drive all the way to Gabby's house and took pictures of her car, her front driveway, and the rest of the street to prove she was not snowed in. He then called her into the office at the end of the week for a disciplinary. When she came out, she was in tears and she was on a final warning. Andy would not want a dismissal on his quarterly record, so he basically just threatened her instead. This did not sit well with anybody. We hated him anyway, but he went too far, making a single mom cry over something so ridiculous. But well, here's the good part. What Andy did not realize was that on the last work night out, he has drunkenly revealed to the team that he was a serial cheater. He would regularly cheat on his wife of 18 years and he also has 2 teenage sons. He would justify it as having natural male hunger, as if you ever heard a more disturbing quote. Andy used to tell his wife that on an evening he finished at 23 o'clock. This was a lie. He never worked later than 21 o'clock. After an evening shift he would go and screw whichever side piece he had going at the time. Well, one evening he finished at 21 o'clock and he got in his car and started driving. What he did not realize was that Gab, who was not on shift that day, had dropped her son at her mom's house and had waited outside the store in her car for Andy to leave. She tailed his car all the way to his hookup house and parked 3 houses down. She then proceeded to take pictures of Andy hugging and kissing this random woman before pulling her inside and slamming the door. You can see where this is going. Andy did not come into work for a week. When we saw him next, he looked broken. His wife had been anonymously sent the pictures of him getting off with another woman. She had kicked him out and had contacted a solicitor to start a divorce process. His sons had blocked his number and wanted nothing to do with him. Of course, he knew who sent the pictures, but he had no proof, no evidence, no nothing. Gabby stayed at the store for another 3 months before moving into a recruitment position for a pharmaceutical company. As far as I know, she is still there today and doing well. As for Andy, I have no idea whether the divorce went through or not. I blocked him on all social media after I left the company, about a month after this whole thing. What I do know is that he is a disgusting, reprehensible human being who thought he was invincible. He thought he could walk all over people, bullying and belittling as he went. Well, he soon realized that nobody is invincible, and I thoroughly enjoyed watching his collapse. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I gotta say, that douchebag Andy really got what he deserved in the end. Have you ever worked for people as horrible as Andy? Let us know in the comments if you got any stories to share. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.